Ebony Adams, Manager of Public Programs for Women in Film. And I am so happy to have you joining us, whether you're here on Zoom, whether you're seeing us on YouTube or Facebook, as we bring you this conversation with the director of Plan B, available now on Hulu. In Plan B, a straight-laced student and her best friend have 24 hours to hunt down a Plan B pill in South Dakota after a regrettable sexual encounter. It's the feature directorial debut of actor, director, writer, and activist Natalie Morales, who also recently co-directed Language Lessons with Mark Duplass, which won the Audience Award at this year's South by Southwest and will be hitting theaters everywhere this fall. So stay tuned, we'll keep you apprised of that date. Natalie recently starred alongside Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini in the Netflix series Dead to Me. She lent her voice to the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and starred in the 20th Century Fox action blockbuster Stuber alongside Dave Bautista and Kumail Nanjiani. She can be seen in Battle of the Sexes and in the Warner Brothers feature The Little Things alongside Academy Award winners Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. She's also had starring roles in NBC's Abby and Parks and Rec, HBO's The Newsroom and Girls, and Netflix's Santa Clarita Diet and BoJack Horseman. She's also created, directed, and stars in the Funny or Die series, James Joyce's Love Letters, along with Michaela Watkins, Martin Starr, and Paget Brewster. Joining Natalie to talk about Plan B and her work as a director is Andrea Wilson-Mirza, director of Reframe, the coalition of industry professionals and partner companies founded in 2017 by WIF and Sundance Institute, with the mission to increase the number of women of all backgrounds working in the screen industries. As a reminder, these conversations are wonderful opportunities to actually ask questions of the filmmakers who join us. So please don't be shy. Feel free to type a question into the Q&A window at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You don't have to wait until the end of the conversation. You can post that question whenever you want. And now, everyone, please welcome Andrea and Natalie Morales.
Hi.
Hi, thank you.
I have never had to sit through somebody talking about me so much, and I wanted to melt into this chair, but thank you, Ebony. That was really nice.
I was going to say,
read out loud while I had to sit
here. Yeah, I mean, that's all the time we have for today. That was it. That was the slot. I mean, you've done some things, and I think it's beautiful to be surrounded by your accomplishments in that way. Natalie, I'm so excited to have you here with us. As Ebony said, Plan B is an R-rated teen road trip buddy comedy. And it's also an eye-opening exploration of the inaccessibility of reproductive health care in this country. And its protagonists are two young women of color whose parents are immigrants. And all of that is pretty revolutionary for that teen comedy container. And, you know, I sincerely mean this and want to say this off the top that, you know, having a teen comedy like this when I was a teen would have been completely revolutionary. And so I'm very happy that it exists for all of us now and for teens now. So thank you, Natalie Morales, and congratulations on the release to Hulu.
Wow, thank you so much. That really means a lot to me because I made it for exactly that reason. That was what spoke to me when I read it, and that was what I thought the movie deserved and that, you know, we all deserved. And I'm glad you felt that way. So thank you.
Well, and I know Ebony mentioned this is your feature debut, but you sort of have this double dueling debut situation because of Language Lessons, which I loved and saw on the festival circuit and would love to chat about maybe later if we have time. But I think I'm right in saying this was intended to kind of be your first feature.
Yeah, it ended up being simultaneous, which is so weird to say, but is what actually happened. So I was slated to direct Plan B in March of 2020. So yeah, I did all the prep for it. You know, it was like a 2-year thing. And then like actual on the ground prep for 2 months before we were going to shoot, which was, you know, the Monday before the Friday that we got shut down. So then I went home and like everybody else didn't, you know, thought, is this going to be a week, a month, 2 weeks, you know, are we all going to die? And then sometime in late May, I got a call from Mark being like, hey, I have a germ of an idea that I want to talk to you about. And so we did Language Lessons in June, pretty much June. That's from the last day filming. So yes, that's June. And then I went back to shoot Plan B in September. it was back up again. So, and then while I was editing language lessons, I was prepping Plan B, and then I did Plan B, and then edited that, and then language lessons came out, and so it's like they really just kind of wove into each other. And then Plan B came out commercially first, but language lessons, as you said, was in
Right.
film festivals first. So that's the explanation of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, okay, let's rewind a little bit. So it's like a 2-year process, you said, of like prepping for this film to actually happen. I think for a lot of directors, especially like multi-hyphenates like you're an actor, you're a director, you've directed, shorts and episodic. Making that jump to a first feature is a lot. Like that's a real barrier and a challenge. So how did you do this kind of miraculous thing? How did you pitch yourself for this feature?
Yeah, it was that, because I was like, I've never directed a feature before. Why would anybody give me this job? Like there's so many other people that would happen. But I was very lucky in that they at least gave me the meeting, and they were serious about considering me. And I think, having done a couple episodes of Room 104, that helped. That helped my chances a little bit. But I just saw something so special in this script that I was like, I know I'm probably never going to get this, but I have this idea for how to do this that is not how it's normally done. And I want to make this a movie that is, doesn't look, I feel like everything the teen girls have gotten in the last few years has been this like milky, for lack of a better word, whitewashed thing that was just like all pastels and like from this like indie perspective, which is beautiful and great, but has been done. And I'd never seen a movie about teenage girls or about a coming of age of women that was like gritty and raunchy and disgusting and hilarious and also had a lot of heart and also was shot in a beautifully cinematic way. I didn't want it to be lit like a comedy that we're used to, like I wanted it to feel, I felt like we deserved that. I felt like we deserved to have all of those things. So I pitched this version of the movie that was like, this is what I see this is like why don't comedies look like how Raising Arizona looked? Like that's what we want, what I want to do. And they bought it. They bought my grand scheme of things of how I saw the movie. And then I was like, all right, how do I actually do that? And I'm really lucky that they gave me that chance. But yeah, I pitched what I was passionate about, not what I thought they wanted to hear, because I was this is what'll make me happy to do it and me proud of it. And also, if they don't like that, then I don't want to do the thing they want to do,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then you got it. And then, as you said, global pandemic.
Yeah.
So what did anything shift? I mean, I'm sure a million things shifted, but because of the pandemic and because of the push timeline, like, did you have to make kind of game time decisions? Did you have to bring in new collaborators?
Yeah, big time. We lost one of our leads. So we had to recast like 3 weeks before we started shooting. And I remember talking to the producers and I was like, look, this movie is all in who's playing these girls. And I know it's all set up and I know it's going to happen with or without me. And I know I might not be some hotshot that gets to say this, but I don't want to make this movie if we don't cast the right people. Like it's just, it's going to fail. It lives and dies by Lupa and Sunny. And we were, because the person who we had before was so good that I was like, we looked a lot. and so then we did open up ethnicities a little bit because we had such a shortened timeline. And at the very last minute, cast Victoria Meroles in the role and changed it to be Mexican American. And she was incredible and blew it out of the water. Like really it's a totally different movie than it would have been. Also, I had to cut like $2 million from the budget, which meant I had to cut scenes. I had to cut a bunch of other stuff because all of that money, it was going to COVID protocols. And that's the only way the movie could get made. So there was a lot that changed. Luckily, I don't think any of our core crew changed. Everybody was sort of in it, thank God. because a fear was that things were starting to come back. So other people's like jobs that were already slated for October or September were already slated. And so we were afraid we were going to lose that. That's what happened to our actor. But luckily, no, that core group stayed. Another big thing that happened is part of that like Raising Arizona vision I had for it is that the movie was originally set in the dead of winter, everything covered in snow, which is why we were shooting in March. And the visual idea for it was that it was going to be these two brown girls in an all white landscape, these two, you know, and literally and figuratively, and literally. And now that was no longer the case because it was fall. So now it was two brown girls and everything is brown around them. So we luckily, you know, we sort of shifted perspective on like how we wanted to tell this story and how to isolate them in a larger, how to make a big empty rural place feel oppressive. And so we came up with different ways to do that with color and with lenses. And luckily, you know, it's part of why I love the job. It's like it's solving those problems, and maybe something better happens along the way. That's always the exciting thing. So we did different things than we were going to do, and I think it's a very different movie than it was going to be. And I'm really, I mean, I thought it was going to be a good movie, but I think it made it better. Also, you know, those like 6 or 7 months off made me like unable to deal with a lot of bullshit, you know? So that helped.
That's real.
That helped.
Yeah.
It changed me in a lot of ways. And I just didn't have time for it anymore. Nobody did. There was no point, you know? And so, yeah, that helped also. That changed.
That's so fascinating. Like I always think about that, you know, because a movie is a moment in time, you know, it's the moment that it's made and the circumstances that it's made in. And like those little magical things that could only happen because that movie was made at that moment.
Right.
That's so fascinating. But I can totally picture that vision too of the snow.
Yeah.
And that, like, that's beautiful. I'm like, I'll watch that movie too. That sounds great. Let's make that movie. And I love that the scene, the like party scene that has that almost like horror element where they're all falling in the mud.
Yeah, that was ice.
There we go.
Yeah.
And I think it's perfect. Like it's a perfect scene. But yep, can totally see it on ice. I'm glad that you kind of brought this up because I really do want to talk about the visual language of the film and the relationship between the two girls. Like I love, you've got all these great two shots with the two leads, you know, over the counter at the drugstore and on the couch and in the car, of course, in the van. And your cinematographer's a woman, Sandra Valde Hansen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I do note that because, you know, to share for our audiences, you know, still less than 5% of distributed feature films are actually lensed by women. But I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, that collaboration or how you and all the department heads or the team kind of developed that visual language.
Yeah. I love that. This is like the fun, exciting, designy stuff that I like because I think, you know, like I was saying earlier, I was like, girls deserve this to look awesome and like to have a thought behind every single thing in the movie and real thought, not just like pretentious thought, but like how can I use what you're looking at to inform what you're feeling or what you're hearing to inform what you're feeling? And so, I mean, I'm a huge Buster Keaton fan, and I'm a fan of silent movies. And there's so much, and I did theater growing up, and there's just so much and I'm a photographer. I have ADD. Did I mention that? I have a lot of hobbies.
It's a lot of hats. It's a lot of hats.
Yeah. But so what's in a frame is always something that's in my head, and it's always how can I tell you what's going on without you hearing a word? How can I produce a feeling in you by something that you look at? And obviously that's size and color and everything. So like you were saying, that shot with the girls and the pharmacist. So throughout the entire movie, Sandra and I, you know, we came up with this idea. I didn't go to film school. Hello. So I don't know a lot about lenses and technical stuff. I know a little bit because I ask a lot of questions and I'm curious, but that's why, not just as a DP, but in every role, I hire people who are much better at that than I could ever be. And then I go, what do you think? This is my idea for it. How do we achieve that? And how can you improve upon it? And so, so anyway, Sandra and I came up with I wanted all of the adults in the movie to always be taller and bigger than the girls at the beginning of the movie. So if you watch at the beginning of the movie, all the adults are always looking down on them. They are never at the same length.
The opening shot with the mom doing her hair, I love. Yeah.
And so throughout the movie, as they start taking up more space in the world, they start taking up more space in the frames. And so they become the same height or bigger. They are the prominent things and colors in the frame. At the beginning, Sandra came up with this idea to complement that, and that we would be less saturated at the beginning than we are at the end. Because as the world starts flourishing to them, all of the colors start really, really popping all throughout. We wanted to definitely keep the girls present, but have the world feel oppressive. Like I was saying, I think, having a lot of space and having a lot of people and growing up in a town where things can be stifling can feel oppressive. And also, even if you don't, just being a teenager is oppressive. And so I wanted to make you feel that way, just by looking at the frame. And we did that really subtly because we didn't want you to notice that you were feeling that, but it's all there. There's the daylight at the end when she's talking to her mother in her room is completely different than the daylight at the beginning of the movie. It just feels bigger and more welcoming. And that was really, really fun to do. And then we devised this idea when we were moving from a white palette of white, we shifted that to this like fall palette, and my production designer Nate Jones, who is awesome, and I, and Sandra, we figured out this pretty tight color palette, very sort of 70s inspired. The whole movie has this 70s feel to it. And also, I wanted to do all the decades like that are sort of modern history, and I wanted the music to feel that way. It feels like it's from the 70s and from the 80s and from the 90s and from today, because subliminally I wanted you to realize that this has been happening to women for a long, long time, and I wanted it to feel evergreen in that way. So the colors have this real 70s and 90s feel to them. That was something that was really fun to develop. And the way the girls dress, I just wanted, I knew we were going to be staring at these two outfits for most of the movie. And so that was kind of the starting point, was like, how do we dress them? And then let's inform the world from that point. So
I love
sorry, I meant to say Lindsay Monahan, our costume designer, like killed it. I was like, Lindsay, they need to be like, the outfits need to feel iconic. Like, I want people to be able to dress up as Sunny and Lupe for Halloween if they want to. And that's the goal. So like, let's think about that. And also let's do something that feels very them, but also new and like not something you've seen over and over and over again. And Lindsay just killed it. She's awesome.
I love that. And I'm here for it as a costume idea. My wife is Pakistani, so I'm like, we have it. We have our Halloween couples costume.
You guys are Sunny and Lupe.
It's happening.
That's so great.
It's 100% happening. I'll post a photo. It's real. See, this is the representation we need, So I'm so happy you brought up the music too, because I would love to hear. There was a lot of things that were like tugging on my heartstrings in like a 90s, early 2000s space. There's like, and the having the band, like, going to see the band and the girl in the band. I just thought, this is such a great element. Did you work closely with your collaborators in that process, like in music supervision? Did you see that early?
Yeah. I mean, I started directing by doing music videos, doing all my friends' bands' music videos. And I've always seen directing. I think that was the very first vision I had for directing. Like, I love music so much. that when I was a kid, I would hear a song and imagine what I would make the music video look like. Before even considering directing as a job, it was just what my brain did when it listened to music. And also because I watched so much MTV like music videos as a kid, I think it was for a while my TV had like an alarm where it would turn on, the TV in my bedroom, and my 6 a.m. MTV music videos was my alarm waking up. So it was like music videos were always really present in my head. And so I mean, I'm not kidding when I say like most of the reason I wanted to make a movie was just so I could make a soundtrack, because I've always loved soundtracks and movies and the way music informs a scene, or the way a scene informs music, and it's a big passion of mine. And we had great music supervisors who, especially for some of the music, like I put in a lot of music that we could not afford. And so our music supervisors, who were so awesome, found some stuff that we could afford that was like just as cool and great. But another person who was really, really influential and was on the exact same page as me was Nate Orloff, our editor. He had the same, story of a girl in the van was all Nate. He was like, what if we make this funny? What if this horror mud chase scene when they turn on the van and it's story of a girl is playing. And I was like, I love that. Please, let's keep that. That's the best, because all of these, I feel like that just makes it more realistic, because there's just, so many terrifying or sad moments in life are also funny. And I wanted to capture that. So music has a lot to do with that. There's a lot of musical jokes in there too, like Creed playing in the party delighted me so much, because I was like, there's two choices. Well, maybe there's three choices here. There has to be music playing at this scary party. Is it low, ominous music that we've seen 100 times before? Okay, what is that? How does that do anything? Is it some unheard of thing that just fills the space? Okay, or why not make it funny? Why not give these people some personality? So for a while it was Party in the USA by Miley, but
oh yeah.
But Miley, I guess, does not like that song. So Creed, I think, works really, really well. It was just I wanted it to sound really good. I wanted you to really like the music in it or laugh at the music in it. I think all the 90s cues, there's a lot of cues in it that are just comedy's sake, like stuff that plays in the car, but some of the other music in it is all my friends that I directed music videos for at one point or another. Holly Miranda's in there, Waltzer's in there. There's a bunch of my friends in there who are incredibly talented musicians that I was so excited to have on. And the band that does the music for the band in the movie, my very first idea for it was my friends who are in Family of the Year, who I used to sometimes play bass and sing in. And they were some of my very first friends in LA, and I was so excited to put them in the movie, and that song is so good. And then our composer, Isabella Manfredi, was about 8 months pregnant composing this movie. She just had her baby.
Badass.
And she had never composed anything before. She's also finishing her solo album. She is an Australian singer, songwriter, musician, who used to headline this band that is no more called The Preachers that I was obsessed with. And I knew just by listening to her music and her lyrics and that there was just something about her that she might get this. And I met with a lot of really amazing, talented composers. And I met with her mostly just because I was like, please get me a meeting. I'm such a fan. But also because I was like, there's a chance that she might be great for this. And she sent us a demo that was like, yes, I want the score to be different. We called the score Michelle, because I was like, the instructions for the score is that it should always be, it should be a third invisible friend, like a ghost friend who is there and who responds to people as they walk in, responds to situations as they happen, has an opinion, has a feeling, knows.
I love this. Yeah. I am obsessed with this as a concept. steps. Please
Yeah,
continue.
she knows when to dip out and like not be there anymore. She knows when to be like, "Hi, are we getting along now? Is everything okay?" She knows when to be like, "Oh my God, there's that hot boy. Let's talk about that." And so that was the idea behind the whole score, and Izzy like really got it, and gave us this like Talking Headsy, different sounding music that was timeless. You know, it had this like 70s, 80s influence to it that I just loved. So I'm really, the music of this movie, as you can tell, because I've been talking about it for like 10 minutes, is very, very important to me, and I'm happy that it's translating to people. Yeah.
Yes, I know. I want it. Like, can we like buy the soundtrack
I'm working on it. I'm
album?
working on it. A lot of
Okay.
people have asked me that. I mean, as you know, music doesn't sell anymore, so there's not really a huge incentive to do that. But I would like to, maybe like a limited edition vinyl, hopefully.
Yes, yes, exactly. Well, I also would love to continue talking about the music, but I want to talk about some of the scenes specifically before we get to the audience questions in a few minutes. Something that you alluded to a moment ago, and that was one of my big takeaways from the film, is that there's just this devastating relatability about so many of the scenarios that they end up in. And so many scenes kind of speak to this. It's like it's hard, it's devastating, but it's so funny. And I think the cat calling scene in the parking lot, and that whole section with the incredible performance from the actor that plays Doris, I think in the gas station,
Yeah,
that
80
whole kind of
Patterson.
yes,
Yeah.
incredible. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, that sort of catcalling scene and how that plays out with this ensemble cast, and the approach in making this really like scary and relatable situation also so damn funny.
Yeah, I think, I truly did come at all of this from the standpoint of like, what's relatable, and also what I like to see is things that feel like I'm hanging out with my friends, things that feel real. And like, yeah, like I was saying, like real life, especially for women, is terrifying and weird and sad and hilarious, and also like unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
things, like you walk out the door and you don't know what the fuck is going to happen every day of your life. That's being a woman. That's being a minority in the world. That's what it is, you know? I mean, I guess that's being anyone in fairness, but even more so that. So I just wanted it to reflect that. Um, and so every choice, every like improv choice, every joke choice, every staging choice, that was the primary goal, is like, what's honest, let's keep it always honest. That was always my direction for the actors. It's like, let's keep it as honest as possible, and that's how you do it. So with that particular scene, and also by the way with the scene with Moses Storm in the playground, like
Yes. Oof.
that's that is sexual assault of a minor in a playground. How do you make that funny? And why do you make that funny? um all of it is the entire, my hope is that you watch this movie, and by the time they're at the Planned Parenthood, you're like, oh my God, why do they even have to do this? This is awful. And you realize what the movie is about. And the truth is that like all of it is awful, all of it's terrible. They shouldn't have to go on this like wild goose chase just to get contraception, just to get health care. So that's the same thing that I applied to these scenes, where like, by the way, the only person on the planet that can make that funny is Moses Storm. So you have to cast someone who never actually feels like a threat to them, and someone who, no matter what he does, isn't hateable for some reason. I don't know why Moses has that, but he's just not hateable. I maintain no one on the planet could have done that. And in the scene in the parking lot, I mean, we knew we had Doris coming to rescue them, and so we knew that there was a way out for them. So we were like, what is the most truthful thing we can do here? That also, I think, like, the weirder and odder you make it, it's true and it's funny, because it's it's you're watching something that can or would have happened to you, and I think maybe by some point you realize that the girls are never actually going to be in danger. So it helps you relax and enjoy it because it's a comedy, you know? And I think that helps. It's something that's like, it's very affirming, or at least that's what I was trying for it to be like, yeah, I've been there. And this is a good way to, someone sees that this is common. Someone sees that,
yeah. Well, and it also feels like they even though they're in these infuriating situations, they have so much agency throughout. You know, they own all the decisions they make, even when they mess up, they're in it. And that really comes through.
That was another big part of it, is that the girls always have to, they have to control the scene. They have to be the ones that, you know, that they never shut up, you know, they never like stay quiet. They always have something to do or say. And yeah, that was a big part of it too. A lot of the movie is wishful thinking and aspirational, and that's on purpose. Like, this is what a good friend should look like. This is what parents should look like when they're being supportive. This is what a boy you like should look like and sound like. You know, this is what it should be like. And hopefully it's not too aspirational, and hopefully not for too long, you know?
That just gave me chills, honestly, when you said aspirational, because that is really how I felt at the end. I was like, wow, she did it. Like with the aspirational ending, with the relationship with the parents that they each have, like that, how that journey, even though we just have those couple of scenes with each of the, you know, parental figures, like to see that aspirational endpoint is so powerful. It's so powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like so many of us need that and want that. So even just to see it in a way that makes sense is healing in some way. And maybe someone will see it and be inspired to behave that way with their kid when their kid needs them, you know? And so both of those things are worth making it, I think.
Totally. I see someone asked a little bit about this in the Q&A, and it was actually the next thing I wanted to ask about too. So I'm going to sneak it in as a hybrid me and audience question. But it's around the kind of depictions of religion or religiosity in the film. And I was really moved by it, I think, especially considering the subject matter, that there's so much nuance actually around the ways that religion shows up. And, you know, obviously we're living in a country that's very polarized, and these issues are often presented to us in a very binary way, and emphasizing the divide, you know, left, right, etc. And those issues and that binary contributes to all of these issues you're highlighting, like the inaccessibility of healthcare. But the kind of journey of some of the characters and their relationship to religion, like Kyle's, you know, epiphany that God is forgiving, and you know, the even, you know, Lupe's father. Like I think there is that aspirational quality in there, but it also, I was wondering a little bit about kind of the intention and the process with the different ways that that's introduced through the film.
Yeah, thank you for asking that, to you and to the audience member that asked that. It's important for me because I think you're right. There's such a binary with how religion is, you know, visualized, and like in media, it's either, you know, from a religious standpoint that is sort of cheesy and like, oh, we're great, and or from the opposite of like, religion is the worst and you're such an idiot if you believe in anything. And so it's like these two things, when we know that most people live somewhere in the middle, and also on either end, but even on either end might not feel the way that they're being represented, right? And I grew up very religious, very Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, and some of it was good and some of it was traumatizing in a lot of ways, as religion can be. And I think the most important thing about it is, you know, why people believe in it, and how in that, especially with Christianity, the teachings of Jesus are great. It's just that people misuse them. He does love all his children. And to me, I was like, if you're really Christian or even just a little Christian and you're watching this movie, I never wanted to show Kyle as like being a total dork because he was Christian. He's a dork no matter what he is. He's just like a noodle. But it wasn't because of that. That was just he was just that kid, and a lot of America is that kid, and they are people who have the same issues and have all these things. So I thought that scene when Kyle says, what I realized, that God loves all his children, no matter what, like that is the basic tenet of Christianity. And I wanted you to feel, if you were Christian watching this movie and had like issues with how everything was feeling to you, to know that's true, and that like you can't, I don't know, you can't argue with that. And then, I think growing up queer and in the closet with a religious, mom was very inspiring with Lupe and her dad. It's not easy, and you are scared that, not only that your dad or your parents aren't going to love you, but that you're also going to go to hell. and it's not; those are two horrible, very big things. And very real things to people who grow up in religious households, and culturally, a lot of Latinx people are very religious, and their families are very religious, and most immigrant families are. So I felt, as an immigrant kid story, that was important, and also as a queer story that was really important, and also as a human story, and that like it is normal to want to have sex and to have sex. Like that's not a strange thing, no matter what your religion says. And even if your religion says you shouldn't do it, like Christianity says God's gonna love you no matter what, and you should know that. So that was very important to me in this movie, and I feel proud of what we did with that.
Yeah, well, I congratulations on that, because I think it's really successful, and it is so meaningful. And I think to be willing to explore that is very courageous in this type of work. So
Thanks.
Okay, so many questions from the audience. I'm going to try to rapid fire some out at you here. So first up, I think this is a great question about inspiration. What were your favorite teen movies growing up? And did you draw inspiration from them for Plan B?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. I wanted this to feel like those teen movies that I had growing up, which were like 10 Things I Hate About You, Can't Hardly Wait, Super Bad. Those movies felt, if not exaggerated, somewhat like Me and My Friends, and somewhat like that. And I wanted this to be a movie for teenagers as well, So yeah, those were big movies for me. I'm trying to think of the other ones. I know Can't Hardly Wait was a big one. Intentions, very big. I guess that's a teen movie, not a teen comedy, but very big. Yeah, definitely.
That Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack was definitely a big one too. Yeah.
10 Things I Hate About You. So, Clueless. Clueless is a perfect film. It's very good. Big inspiration.
Love that. This is a great question, something we didn't really chat about yet, which is, can you talk a little bit, this question from Brooke, can you talk a little bit about how you work with actors? The kind of performance notes you gave them, notes that maybe you wish you would have heard from directors as an actor?
That's funny. I gotta say the biggest, the biggest inspiration to be a director for me was bad directors. And so this is a good thing. Like, if you want to do something, you should do it, because even if you're bad, you might help someone. Being an actor and being on different sets really allowed me to see how different directors work, and how I like some things or don't like some things, or learn from them just by watching or whatever. Most directors who are just directors don't get that. It's a really solitary job. You never see someone else do it. So like you said, I think I did take a lot from that, in how I not only do the rest of what directing encompasses, but talking to actors, which was, as an actor, the part I saw the most, and I think I think something that I learned is, interrupting people when they're acting and asking them to do it over and over and over again by rote doesn't feel good. Nobody wants to feel like a puppet. And that happens a lot, even with great directors, because they're on a timeline and they need to move or they need to get one thing. And they, the collaborative process becomes a little less important than getting it done. And so that was something that I really tried to heed, because I remembered as an actor, it felt inhibiting and it felt not great. But mostly I hope that actors trust me because they know that I wouldn't ask them to do anything I wouldn't do, and that that I know what I'm asking of them. And yeah, I think it's really fun to do that, because I can talk to actors on this sort of like level standpoint of like, all right, I get what you're going for, I get what's happening. Here's what we need, and it's a fun thing to switch from one to the other, because I do feel like it's like two languages and I'm bilingual in it. So it's fun.
I love that. That's such a great way to put it. Someone has asked here, I think this is an interesting question. What was the thing you were most afraid of when you first started directing?
But besides it being like terrible, I mean, I think, what people are afraid of their whole lives, that like I would be discovered as some sort of fraud, and I think people sort of gatekeeping or seeing you as less than, because I'm a woman, because I'm brown, because I'm only an actor, because I don't have experience or didn't get formal training, because I don't have connections to other people. Like there's different pipelines to directing that I didn't have confidence in, because I looked around me and I didn't see a lot of people like me. And so then that makes you doubt yourself a lot. Like I said, 2020 really made me go like, I don't know that I care anymore about what people think. And I realized that my experiences and my opinions and my thoughts, what they're not from Harvard, they're from me and they're from my life, are just as valid, and maybe even more valuable at the moment, because it's so underheard than other people's whose voices and experiences we've been listening to for decades. I think something from the point of view of somebody like me can maybe relate to a lot of other people like me who have never seen themselves reflected in something. And I had to remember that like I don't have to do things the same way they've been done, because nobody's ever been like me. And so that gave me license to trust my own opinion as well as others, and go like, would I like this? Would this make me happy if I saw it on screen? And that was like a big lesson. Yeah.
Oh, I feel that's so hard. And I feel like it's an ongoing practice, right? You come to those realizations, but then, continue to remind yourself of that truth. As you're working in with every project, I imagine, in different circumstances. Betsy has asked about, were any of your own experiences in the film? Was there anything that you brought in of your own personal experiences?
Yes, tons. Lots. And also I would say the biggest thing is friendship. My best friends are some of the most important people in my life. They're people that I moved out to LA with, and like have made an adult life with, and have counted on, and they've counted on me, and they've really become very, very important people in my life. They're something like family or something else entirely, or it's an important enough relationship to depict in a movie. So the friendship is like very much based on the kind of friendship that I have with my friends. The like, I trust you so much that I can make fun of you, and you know what I mean? I trust that you won't go away. And like, it's a like really fiercely loyal and loving friendship that I'm very lucky to have. And so that is very the friendship in this movie is very, very influenced by my friendships in my life.
Well, it definitely rings so true. You mentioned this scene in the playground earlier, and like, if that's not like the perfect demonstration of like best friendship, solidarity, maybe, I don't know, maybe too far.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to clarify, I've never been in that situation.
Oh, that's not based on truth.
Not that particular situation I've never been in. I don't know that I do the same thing as them. I think I'd probably think of other solutions, but I'm not 17 anymore, so I know a little better now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, a few more questions here. I want to make sure I can try to get to everyone. This is so many good cues here. Oh, this is lovely. So the counterpoint of the earlier question, what was the most rewarding part of directing this project?
I think I'm still reaping those rewards, and I think I will for the rest of my life. God, that sounded so pretentious, but I really, I really think that, like, I am learning things about myself and about the world and about people all the time. Either that's my dog, by the way. Either by watching people's opinions and thoughts about this particular movie, or even watching a scene myself again. Like, throughout the editing process of this movie, I saw it so many times and I never got sick of it. And I always found something else that was new, some performance thing, or something that really affected me. And like you were saying earlier, my teenage self that like really needed this movie. I always cry at the end with Lupa and her dad, and I always cry at the Planned Parenthood. And then I started crying at Lupa and Logan in the car, just making out, like all these things that like really speak to a part in my heart and my soul that needed this movie. And so as a viewer and as a maker, so it's been really rewarding to see people talk about it and talk about how it has affected their lives, or like their communication with their parents, or parents talk about somebody. I printed it out because I want to frame it. Somebody tweeted at me and said that like they were going to go upstairs and tell their daughter that they loved the parts of them that they couldn't see. And I was like, broke down into tears because that was the best thing I'd ever heard. So that's what I mean by like, I don't know that it'll ever end. I think it was such a rewarding experience making this movie and getting to make it with the people I made it with, that I think for the rest of my life, I'll reap rewards from it in some way.
That's beautiful. And definitely frame that.
Yeah,
definitely put that one up for any rough day you may have. Just keep that one up there. Ivy's asking about what it meant to you to direct a film that centered Planned Parenthood at this time.
Well, when I first moved out to LA on my own, I was 20. I didn't have health insurance. I didn't have money, and I would go to get healthcare and checkups and pap smears and all the regular things that women have to do all the time at Planned Parenthood. And I got medicine at Planned Parenthood, and it was there for me, as it is for so many women. And actually, the Rapid City Planned Parenthood is permanently closed. It is such an awful problem in this country that women can't get healthcare that they need. We're the number one developed country in the world. We have the most teen pregnancies out of any developed country in the world, and our sex education is abysmal. It's not far off from what you saw in the movie. I mean, that is based on a real sex ed video that our writers saw. It is,
wow.
It's a tragedy that I think will only get better by more people being informed. And so it meant a lot to me to center it and to talk about it in a way that didn't feel preachy, hopefully, and that just felt true,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm looking at the clock. Everything's fine. We're great. We're gonna get to everybody.
I was laughing at my dog who's behind the computer like this, just staring at me. That was what made me laugh. I need to talk.
Someone would like to know what you are watching right now, which I think is always a great question to think about in terms of what might be inspiring you, as well as like what trends you're excited by.
Yeah, I last night, hold on. Still my dog. I watched like 5 episodes in a row of Feel Good last night, which I am just starting to watch and is so good. I'm really into it.
Mm-hmm.
No one spoil it for me. I have not gotten to the end of the first season, but I really like that. I hadn't had time to really watch TV or anything in so long because I was nonstop editing and working on this movie and on language lessons. And then before that, I watched WandaVision, which I really liked. Yeah, that's what I've been watching lately.
Well, I think that's a great segue into this next question, because you did make 2 feature films in a year. Often in talking to feature filmmakers, I talk about the gap that typically exists between first and second feature, and I think the average is still somewhere around 6 years
Wow.
between so you did the year. It was extremely epic, and Maria here in the chat said brava on Plan B, and she also loved language lessons.
Thank
So
you.
how in the world did you accomplish having 2 feature films directed by you, released in the same year, both timing wise and sanity wise?
I almost didn't, and I'll never do it again. That's to be very, very frank. Not that anything bad happened. It just was too much work
It's a
for
lot.
a person,
Yeah.
and they just happened to be at the same time. It wasn't on purpose. I wasn't trying to be some Superman doing this. I got really lucky that like the irons I had put in the fire were ready. I don't know what's the term for that. What happens when you
Hot.
hot? Yes. Okay. Sure. They were hot. They were fine. They were finally hot. But
ready
they
to
happened
iron.
at the same
Yeah.
time. So I couldn't not do it. And what I'm doing right now, with the exception of this, is I am on vacation and I am taking a lot of time off because I don't want to burn out and I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. And except for just like living life and like seeing what cool stuff I can do. So I'm making it a priority to rest and I planned that while I was making this. And luckily I have a really amazing team of agents and my manager who I've been with forever who really understand that and are really protective of me and don't push me to do things. Because you need that. I'm human. Everybody's human. You can't just like work forever and expect anything good to happen. You need to be like bored to be creative, and you need to slow down in order to like let your body catch up and live healthily. So that's what I'm doing right now. It was some days were really hard because any free time that I had wasn't free time. I was working on another one, but I was so happy doing it. I mean, it was a lot of adrenaline and a lot of excitement. So I think that also got me through, but I certainly won't do 2 movies at the same time ever again. That's too much. No one do that.
An important lesson, right?
Yeah, no one do that. It's still
yeah.
You don't need to do it.
Well, the last question I want to answer here is I think I'm hearing from you a great piece of advice, and I think you've peppered this throughout your responses, which is it really seems like you've learned so much through all of these interactions, all of these collaborators, all of these different parts of the process that you're now applying into your next thing and the next thing. And Betsy has asked here, she's a screenwriter and an actor, wondering what advice you would give to all of these folks looking to break into the industry, in I guess any of these roles or hats that you wear.
I mean, my advice really is to not wait for somebody to give you permission and just do it. Like most of us have a phone in our back pocket that has a pretty good camera, and there's free editing software, and there's a lot of people who aren't meant to be directors and aren't meant to be makers, and that's fine. Like you if you want to just act, it's unfair to be like, well, you got to make your own stuff, because that's not what you want to do. You want to be an actor, and I understand that because a lot of my friends are like that. But there are ways for you to get your acting skills out there, and people are doing it now more than ever. There's, you know, Instagram and TikTok and all of these places that if you're not getting auditions or getting meetings or getting chances, and people aren't seeing you for what you want to be seen for, then you have to do it, because no one's just going to give you the chance. You know, you have to stop waiting for somebody. My dog sneezes as I'm making this impassioned.
He agrees. Yeah.
I learned that you have to stop waiting for somebody to come save you. And you also have to stop waiting for somebody to come punish you. You just have to do the things that you want to do, because this is your one and only life, and you got to figure out a way to do it if you really want to do it. And if you don't want to work, however hard it is you have to work to do that, then do the thing you want to do, you know, do the other thing or do multiple things. But yeah, that's my true realist advice. And also, don't try and do something that you think other people will like. Do what you like. Bring your unique voice to whatever it is you do. And there will be people who want to see it and like you. And you just have to have that confidence, or at least power through having that confidence, even if you don't really have it.
Natalie Morales, I can't think of a better note to end on than that. I think that's beautiful and sage advice. And seriously, heartfelt congratulations from all of us at Reframe and Women in Film on this exceptional year, 2 years, this work that you've done. We are reaping the benefits as well, getting to see you rise. And we look so forward to what you're going to do next after you get some rest and take a vacation.
Yeah.
So thanks for spending some time with us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Andrea. This was fantastic. And yeah, I can only just echo Andrea's amazing words. Like, we're so happy that we got a chance to talk to you about this film. Hopefully we can talk to you again when Language Lessons comes out, because you really are just, you know, one of our favorites here. Thank you everyone who joined us. I apologize for the troll who popped up in the chat. We shut it down with a quickness, but for everyone who saw those horrific messages, I apologize. You know, and hopefully we'll not have a repeat of that ever again, but I think we're a victim of our success. People don't like what Women in Film is doing, but you know what, we keep it moving. So thank you all for being here again. Natalie, best of luck with this incredible, so funny. Y'all, this movie is so, please watch it.
Watch it.
Yes. If you don't have Hulu, email me. I'm gonna get you a link. You know, I'm gonna let you log in under my account. We're gonna make sure that you see this film. But until next time,
free trial.
That's right. All right, everyone. Good night. Thank you.
Bye.